At 15 years old, I knew exactly what I wanted. I wanted to be a musician. Not because somebody told me to. Not because it seemed practical. Because music felt natural. The guitar made sense to me in a way very few things did. But I had two problems. The first was that I compared myself to my guitar teacher. Every time I watched him play, I felt small. I told myself I would never reach that level. The second problem was even bigger. I knew how difficult it was to make a living as a musician. Everywhere in the world, thousands of talented people were chasing the same dream. The odds were terrible. So I made what seemed like the responsible decision. I chose software engineering. The funny thing is that software engineering was one of the hardest things I had ever attempted. Music felt natural. Programming did not. I had to fight for every bit of progress. While other people seemed to understand concepts quickly, I often needed more time. More repetition. More effort. But I was stubborn. So I kept going. I studied. I graduated. I got my first job. Then my second. Then my third. And for almost 20 years, I lived a life that looked successful from the outside. I was a software developer. I had a career. I earned a good salary. I kept moving forward. At least that's what it looked like. What nobody saw was the fear. The constant fear. Every time a meeting appeared on my calendar unexpectedly, my stomach tightened. Every time somebody said, "Can we talk for a minute?" my mind immediately imagined the worst. Sometimes I would feel cold sweat running down my back. Sometimes my heart would race before meetings. I was always waiting for bad news. Always waiting for the ground beneath me to disappear. And strangely enough, sometimes it did. From 2005 until 2023, I was fired from every software job I ever had. Some lasted a month. Some lasted more than 3 years. Most of the time, it came as a surprise. One normal day. Then suddenly, "Could you join this meeting?" And within minutes, everything changed. For years, I wondered what was wrong with me. Was it my skills? Was it my personality? Was I too optimistic? Too relaxed? Too different? I honestly never found a complete answer. What made it even more confusing was that I often delivered my work well. I completed tasks. I solved problems. I helped people. Yet somehow I never felt secure. I never felt like I belonged. There was one job I loved. Not because of the technology. Not because of the salary. Because of the people. There was a coworker who made me laugh constantly. We shared knowledge. He taught me web development. I taught him Android development. For a while, work felt human. For a while, it felt like I had finally found my place. But even that chapter eventually ended. And the years continued. One firing, then another, then another. What I never told anyone was that the hardest part wasn't losing the jobs. The hardest part was losing myself. Somewhere along the way, I stopped playing music. Not for a week. Not for a month. For years. Years. The thing I loved most slowly disappeared from my life. I was so focused on surviving. So focused on becoming a better developer. So focused on keeping the next job. That I abandoned the part of myself that had felt alive. I told myself it was temporary. I told myself I would come back to music later. After the next promotion. after the next project, after the next milestone, but later has a way of becoming years, then decades. And before I knew it, I had spent almost 20 years becoming someone I never planned to be. The strangest realization came near the end. I began to see the relationship for what it was. The companies wanted my productivity. I wanted their salary. Neither side was in love. We were simply exchanging value. I became a mercenary for a paycheck, and they became mercenaries for my work. There is nothing wrong with that, but it was never the life I imagined for myself. And maybe that's why every day felt heavier than it should have. Then in 2023, it ended, and something unexpected happened. I didn't feel devastated. I didn't feel defeated. I felt relief, pure relief. The fear disappeared. The anxiety disappeared. The constant feeling of waiting for the next meeting disappeared. For the first time in years, I could breathe. That was the moment I finally understood something. I had spent my entire life avoiding one fear. The fear of becoming a musician. The fear of failing at what I loved. So I chose the safe path. And then I spent 20 years afraid anyway. The safety I was chasing never arrived. The certainty I wanted never arrived. The fear simply changed clothes. Today, I still practice coding. I still respect everything software gave me. It allowed me to save money. It gave me opportunities. It introduced me to good people. It helped me build a life. But it also taught me something else. A life can be successful on paper and still feel wrong in your heart. And sometimes the greatest freedom isn't getting what you wanted. It's finally admitting what you wanted all along. At 15 years old, I wanted to make music. Maybe that dream was never as practical as software engineering. Maybe it was never as safe. But after spending 20 years running from uncertainty, I've learned something. Nothing is truly safe. Not careers, not companies, not plans. The only thing more painful than failing at your dream is spending years wondering what would have happened if you had tried.